Hey yo, what's up guys? Star Record X back with another video. And since y'all made the like goal on the last video, I'm coming out with a part 2 of what if Deku had Sage or 6-path Chakra. Alright? Don't forget to like and subscribe. And I got a question for y'all. Anyway. Who do y'all think is Deku's father from the Naruto universe that could let him have the Rinnegan? Because the Sage of 6 Paths chose Deku to have his chakra. But who do you think? Who do you think is his father? Okay? Just let that set in. Alright, let's get on to the video. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm sorry if I sound sick, but I was outside this morning and I got a little bit of a cold. So yeah. We're starting from when we left off last video. Deku is 4 years old and he's still training. But we don't really need all those details about what he did, you know what I'm saying? So we're gonna time skip to by the time he's fit to graduate junior high. The teacher walks in the classroom with his hands filled with papers saying, I have some ideas of what y'all might want to do after school. But heck, this really doesn't matter. Throwing all the papers in the air. I know all y'all want to be heroes, right? The whole class starts using their weird quirks and yelling, we want to be heroes. And he says, settle down, settle down. Bakugo, I heard you want to go to UA. He said, heck yeah, I want to go to UA. All these worthless rejects can't do And then the teacher cuts him off. Midoriya, I heard you want to go to UA too. He says, huh? He gets his face out of his book that he was writing in. He says, yeah, I applied for UA. Everyone starts laughing. Bakugo says, you worthless, quirkless loser. You applying for UA? You better stay out of my way. And then Deku says, I've had enough of your crap. He gets up and says, Tsukuyomi. Puts his hands in the same formation that he had 10 years ago. After 6 seconds, Deku releases the Tsukuyomi Genjutsu. It seemed like Bakugo hadn't been inside the Genjutsu for 6 months, even though 6 seconds. Deku made sure that it was 10 times worse than it had been 10 years ago. And then Deku says, have you had enough, Bakugo? Stop bullying me, and this won't happen again. He says, you have a quirk. You've been lying to me all this time, and you had a quirk? Don't you dare lie to me again. And then Deku says, I can whenever I want to. It really doesn't matter, because if you try to put your hands on me, you gotta get put in this Tsukuyomi. And then Bakugo says, it's called the Tsukuyomi then. And Bakugo shouts, you dang loser. Your quirk is just to hypnotize me? Are you kidding me? Then Deku almost loops up and says, that's not, and then he shuts himself up. He doesn't want a lot of people to know that he has multiple abilities, because that would make it seem like he had multiple quirks, which he didn't. So yeah, he just shuts himself up about the rest of the abilities that he has. But he's gonna have to show it sometime down the line. He goes to the principal's office. He checks himself out. and he's going home. He takes a shortcut under the bridge when he feels an ominous presence behind him. He says, "Come on if you're not scared to get your butt whooped." And then the sludge monster says, "Hey kid, let me borrow your body real quick. I'll give it back once I'm done." And then Deku says, "Like heck, I'll give you my body." Starts cracking his knuckles. And then, with one swift move, he punches it into a couple of pieces. All Might comes. He jumps down and says, "I am here." And then he just looks at Deku and looks at the sludge villain. He says, "Young boy, you defeated this villain all by yourself?" He said, "Yep, I did." Now, Deku from using the Sharingan, or the Mangekyo Sharingan, can really just get the gist of people's quirks. And then he says, "All Might, you have a time limit on your quirk?" And then he says, how did you know that?" And then he says, "With these eyes," and then he suddenly activates his Mangekyo Sharingan. "I can tell the gist of people's quirks." And then he says, "Oh, that's a really cool ability. You make a fine hero one day." And then Deku starts to blush. And he's about to cry when he says, "Don't cry, don't start crying." And then Deku starts sniffling. And then he says, "You think I can be a hero?" And All Might says, "Yeah, you can be a hero." With that flood of emotions, Deku enters his mindscape for a split second. And then he sees this old man floating in an Indian-style crisscross position. Then he says to the old man, Who are you, and what is this place?" He says, "This is your mindscape, and I am the Sage of Six Paths." The Sage of Six Paths? "Oh, I think I've read about you from my father's scrolls." And then he says, "Your father, huh? Your father knows about me. Okay, interesting. Well, I'll give you one of my abilities right now so you can heal that man, so you can build a stronger bond with him." He says, "What's that?" He says, "The King of Hell." He says, "The King of Hell?" He says, "Yeah, the King of Hell. You've never heard of him?" And then he says, No. Well, anyway, you're gonna learn about him more." And then the Sage of Six Paths touches his forehead, and then Deku's eyes start to turn purple. The Sage of Six Paths has a mirror that he pulls out of one of his robes, and he says, "Look at yourself." He says, "Whoa, my eyes." Then Deku says, "Whoa, my eyes changed. That's cool. What can they do now?" And then the Sage of Six Paths says, "You'll learn about it. I'm not just gonna tell you. That would take all the fun out of it." Anyway, Deku is put back into consciousness, and then he says to All Might, well, he says to All Might, "I know you have a really, really bad wound that only lets you do about 3 hours of hero work. I could heal it for you." And then he puts up a hand sign, the plus hand sign, the which Naruto uses, as y'all can see on the screen right now. And then he says, "Hop in his mouth." Now, All Might is hesitant, but he does hop in his mouth. He sits there for about 2 seconds, and then he comes out, and then he says, "What's your name, son?" And then he says, Midoriya, Izuku Midoriya." He says, "You'll make a great really, 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 really great hero. He says, then Deku starts blushing. He says, young Midoriya, how many quirks do you actually have? And then he tells All Might the truth. He says, then I don't really classify them as quirks. I classify them as abilities that come from my eyes, but about 20 or so. Now, he actually knows about the six paths of the Rinnegan from the Sage of Six Paths. Although not telling him, he figures it out by himself. Anyway, All Might says, would you like to be trained? And then Deku says, yeah, I would. And then All Might says, I guess you know that I can pass down my quirk. I want to pass it to you. And then Deku starts blushing and crying. Now, I'm gonna have All Might give Deku one for all earlier because he has a way stronger body than he had in the original canon because he's been training since he was 4 years old, and he has a great handle on the Mangekyo Sharingan abilities, which he only let the Sage of Six Paths put in one of his eyes. Well, he only let the Sage of Six Paths put the Rinnegan in one of his eyes, but Mangekyo Sharingan is in his right eye, Rinnegan in the left, you know. But anyway, so he's training on the beach, and within a month, and you have 10 months before the exams for UA, he gets one for all. Now, I think it was called the Osira Path. I'm not that familiar with all the paths of the Rinnegan, but I think it's called the Osira Path, and he used it a little bit to, like, fly or whatever. I think whatever path it is that makes you fly with the Rinnegan, that's the one that he's combining with one for all. He says, I wonder if I can combine this with my new quirk now. And then he does, and the Rinnegan and the M1 for all is a great, really, 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 really good powerhouse. And he's able to use 100% of one for all's power straight away, just how All Might had been able to. Then, one thing that he had done for training is moving trash off of a beach. He had moved it in 1 week, which is what made All Might give him one for all. And then he says, and then he's training on the beach, and then a girl walks up to him and says, I seen you've been training here a lot. And then he really doesn't know how to talk to girls. And he says, yeah. And then she says, my name is Momo Yajirozu. She says, what's yours? And then Deku says, why am I saying I all the time? Then Deku says, my name's Izuku Midoriya. Nice to meet you. And then she says, sorry about your trading. I should get going now. And then Deku says, where are you going? And then she says, home. And then he says, I can take you there. It's a lot quicker than walking. Then Deku starts flying in the air. Does a couple tricks to, impress her a little bit. Then Mama says, you can fly? Well, that's pretty cool. And then red and green sparks and lightning trails start to spark around Deku as he surges with the power of one for all. And then Momo thinks to herself, does he have 2 quirks? And then she just lets the thought fade. She hops on his back, and then Deku flies over to her. When Deku gets to her house, he says, well, he doesn't say it, but he thinks to himself, dang, she must come from a lot of money. Now, Deku isn't greedy or anything, and this would have, but he still finds it a little bit attractive that she has a lot of money. He isn't a gold digger or anything, but you know. And then he says, she is kind of cute. She has a lot of money. So, well, I wouldn't think he would say that. She is kind of cute. He would say, she is kind of cute, you know? And then he says, you want to exchange phone numbers? Then Momo says, yeah. They exchange phone numbers. And then Momo says, wait a second, close your eye. Then she kisses him on the cheek. Deku is flustered, and he's blushing, and he's stuttering over his words. And then he kisses her back on the cheek, of course. Where else? Like, get your minds out of the gutter. Like, hello. Anyway, he lets One for All surge throughout his body and activates the Rinnegan and activates the Asura Path and flies off back to his house. Well, that's the end of the video. If you made it to the end of the video, comment pizza. Alright? And yeah. Stay hydrated, be safe, wear your mask, you know the deal. And bye, Starbreaker.